some of the swirly swirl. And now, some of this power, give you power. Yes, oh yes. And, behold, I've done it.
What have you done, Dr. O'Connor?
A clone of me. Perfection.
I don't remember ordering another you. Whack job. Absolute whack job. Roger, cloning.
Richard, he just doesn't get it. On today's show, we're cloning plants, not people.
Now that's something that interests me. I don't think he got the memo.
Not even close.
Tommy, tell me you're doing something serious.
I absolutely am. Today, I'm helping a homeowner that has some loose stair parts.
The post wasn't always this loose. The kids found out it was loose and seemed to shake it every day, and it's just gotten worse and worse.
There it is, swinging away.
Our biggest fear is that the whole thing comes crashing down on somebody as they're going up, or worse, coming down. Hey, Tommy, here's the culprit.
All right, a loose newel post. Well, you know, sometimes these newel posts are built of solid pieces of wood, and sometimes they're individual pieces of wood, one on each side. Now, if I look down the side, right down here on the bottom, I can actually see a joint that runs up the post. So that tells me that this is actually a hollow post made of 4 individual pieces of wood. Let me show you. If I take off this newel cap, it should come off because it's only nails. Okay, take that off. And now you can see 4 individual pieces of wood.
What's this piece of wood inside there?
That's actually filler board, and that goes down far enough so they will have nailing to fasten the railing to the newel post. Now, this was originally nailed probably into the riser here, maybe into the tread, and also into the skirt board here. And over time, as people come up the stairs and they pull on it, they pull the nails, loosening the connection. What we need to do is push this newel post back into position, up against this stair tread. And we're going to drive a screw in from this side into that stair tread, holding the newel post into position. Now what we want to do is we want to push the post against the stair tread. To do that, we're going to use this stick right here and the wall. So we don't damage the trim, we're going to take this block of wood, put it against the trim, put our brace on that, and you do that in. Now push it right down. That's pretty good, right about there. All right, now we're good and tight. All right, here's the fastener we're going to use to hold the newel post in place. It's actually used in engineered lumber all the time. It's actually got a T-head or a flat head. The shaft has no threads on it until you get to the very end. You get about 1.5 inches of threads. Now what I want to do is I want to fasten this newel post as high up as I can. The best place is into this stair tread. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to drill a hole just for the head so we can countersink that. I'm using a spade bit and I'm drilling a hole just deep enough to set the head of the screw. All right, let's see how that is. It should be good. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to drill a hole about the diameter of the shaft of the screw.
Now, Tom, why didn't you drill in the middle of the newel post?
Well, if the newel post was solid, I would have drilled in the middle. But it's actually made of 4 individual pieces of wood. And this piece on the side is in between the front and the back. So if I drilled into this piece right here in the middle, when I tightened the screw up, this piece would slide in or split, not giving me any strength. What I want to do is I want to drill a hole through the newel post so that the screw ends up in the center of the tread. If I go too high, the screw will come out the top. If I go too low, the screw will go out the bottom. Then I won't have any structure for the screw to hold. To make sure that my drill is level with the tread, I'm actually going to use my speed square to guide it. By using a short bit, I have less chance of it wandering as it goes through the post. Now I want to switch to a longer drill bit and go into the tread. Okay, I'm through the newel post and just into the edge of the tread. Now what I want to do is swap out my drill bit to a smaller one. The reason I'm swapping out the drill bit for a smaller one is because I want more of the threads to bite into the wood. All right, now we're ready for the screw. All right, James, let's take that brace out. All right, that's it.
That's it, one screw?
That's all we need. Okay, now all we want to do is fill the hole and cover the screw head. Now we'll scrape this off a little bit, let it dry, and give it another coat later on. Now all that's left is to reattach the newel cap to the newel post. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each corner. There you go.
Tom, this is great. Thanks for helping us.
My pleasure. It's nice and solid now.
So tell me, just one screw fixes that whole newel post.
The right size screw placed in the right position makes all the difference in the world. Let me show you. Now, here's a post here that has a half lap on it, all right?
Yep.
Now, this would go against the riser, like that. Now, I would see this newel post, and I know that it would loosen like this, all right? So it's going to pivot on the bottom, making the bottom the fulcrum point.
So the part that actually stays up against the riser, you're saying, is the fulcrum.
That's right. So what I'd want to do is screw a screw in as high on the newel post as I can.
If the fulcrum's on the bottom, put the screw on the top.
That's right.
Okay?
Now, let me show you this newel post over here. Again, it has a half lap.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that half lap actually fits in this pocket right here. Drops down beside the stringer.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when this post gets loose, it's going to pivot like this.
So in that case, you're saying that the fulcrum is going to be up high?
Yeah, right here. See that? So what I would do to fasten this post, if I couldn't get down underneath the stringers to fasten it from below, I would put a screw in this way.
So the fulcrum's up high, put the screw down low.
That's right.
Great tip, Tommy. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, if my grandfather was cutting this pipe in his day, this is how he would have done it. A cast iron pipe would have required a chisel like this, and you would have gone around the pipe about 80 times, and finally it would have broken away.
And you still went into plumbing.
That's right. So I thought today we'd talk about all the ways you can cut tubing or pipe.
All right, so what do you want to start with? Copper?
Well, copper's what everybody uses now for water, or it was always been the standard. So I want to start right here. This is a standard tubing cutter. It has two wheels right here, rollers. You can see the blade right there. That's a replaceable blade. You want to be sure it's sharp. Now, no matter what the pipe size, up to about 1 inch, what you do is you put it on, so you tighten it down. And the most important thing is this first revolution, because as you go around, you're going to score the pipe. You see that? Now, when I bring it all the way around, okay, you want to be sure that you go back into that original groove, because you can run if you're not careful, and all of a sudden you create a candy cane going up the pipe.
Right.
So once you know you're in the groove, so to speak, watch what happens. Now, the key is to now tighten it, but not over-tighten it.
So tighten as you go.
Right, and if you over-tighten, you can actually take that tube out of round, and then the fitting won't fit.
Oh, you compress it.
That's right.
Gotcha.
So now I'm getting close. Okay, here it comes right there. Good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, perfect cut.
Gotcha.
Now, there are all kinds of tubing cutters. Here's the standard one. You can notice that the blade is right here at the top. Now, this one's a little bit different. The blade is here on a piston that goes up and down. Now, watch. It's convenient because I can push it right up and then tighten it onto the pipe.
Gotcha.
But what I find is if you're not careful, this can wander a little bit. So if you don't really watch what you're doing on that first revolution, it might run a little bit more.
Gotcha.
But it's
All
pretty
right.
convenient. Now, all different sizes and shapes. Here's another one for larger sized copper or metal pipe. But the problem is there's not always enough room in the real world to get this tubing cutter to go around. The wall might be in the way.
Right.
All sorts of saws for that. Here's a couple of hand saws, a hacksaw blade holder that allows you to cut into a tight space. But using a mini hacksaw like this doesn't leave a beautiful clean cut. You might have to deburr it.
Okay.
Now, they also make some small cutters like this. This is called an imp. Now, this is adjustable from 3/8 to 3/4. You put this on, and now you can turn that right around, right close to the wall, and get into really tight spaces.
And you're turning and tightening
That's
as
right.
you
Each
go.
time it's got that knob right here.
Gotcha.
Now, these came from Europe, and now they're available in American sizes. You open it up. This is for 1/2 inch. When you put it on, it's spring-loaded, so there's no knob to tighten. As you turn it, the blade gets tighter against the pipe.
Oh, so it's self-tightened.
That's right. But with these, you have to have the right cutter for the right size pipe. This is for 1/2 inch, and there's another one for 3/4.
Gotcha.
Now, they also make a unit like this, which you can use as a regular imp cutter that's adjustable, but it also has an auto-cut feature. You can also step it into this ratchet. Let me show you. It's pretty cool. Step it onto here. Now, we tighten this up.
So are you saying that after you tighten it the first time, this is going to continue
That's
to
it.
self-tighten?
That's right. So I just have to go just like this. You never have to tighten that knob again.
Wow.
All right, there you go. All right.
Went the other way.
All right. So that's copper pipe. But sometimes you may have to cut steel pipe. Now, you can use a hacksaw or a reciprocating saw like this, but they also make a steel pipe cutter. Now, this has got a heavy blade right here and rollers, and the same rules apply. You put it on there, and you're going to have to hold back the pipe with a pipe vise.
Gotcha. All right.
All right.
So let's talk about PVC because it's got to be as common, if not more so, than copper.
That's right. You can use a regular wood saw, carpenter saw, but they also make a PVC saw, a little rigid blade, and that's just a question of trying to keep it square. Okay, and when you're done, you want to deburr that to get all the shavings out of there.
Gotcha.
But what I like is this. If you're going to do a lot of PVC work, this is the way to do it.
Size of that.
This is the way to do it.
So this is big nipper?
Yeah. So watch this. Watch that blade go right there through there. Like butter.
And no burrs. That's
Isn't
a
that cool?
nice,
Great.
smooth cut, no burrs.
If you're doing a lot of PVC, that's a great tool.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you may have to cut PVC below the floor level. You know, when you rough in plumbing for, say, a toilet, it might come up through the floor, and you want to put a closet flange onto it. Now, that means you're going to actually have to cut down below the floor level.
Gotcha.
So for that, they make a blade right here that sticks onto a drill bit. And now you could reach down inside there and go right around there and cut that pipe off below the floor grade.
Okay, so a couple different ways to think about PVC. We still have got PEX out there on the
That's
market
right.
replacing copper.
All kinds of simple little tube cutters here, and that's the same sort of thing as that PVC cutter. Simple.
So good information on all of these pipes here, but I want to know what your grandfather would do to the cast iron if you were around today.
Well, let me show you. There's a tool that's the only way to cut cast iron. If this is a big cast iron closet bend, here's the place where the toilet would discharge into the main drain.
Yep.
Here's what we're going to use.
Whoa, look at this.
So, drop that underneath.
Granddad never had one of these.
All right, so on this chain, there are these cutter wheels.
Yeah, okay.
When I connect it, it's going to provide equal pressure onto the pipe.
So each one of those wheels is going to apply pressure just like your grandfather's old cold
That's
chisel.
right.
But it's going to do it all at the same time.
That's right. All right, so we snug that up.
And the result?
Well, put your glasses on.
All right. Get this out of the way.
Okay. This is fun.
What's going to happen? Oh! Look at that.
Not bad.
Not bad at
Take
all.
that, Grampy.
Cloning, Roger? Are you becoming a mad scientist on us?
Cloning's been around in the plant world for thousands of years, and it's a way to get an exact duplicate of a plant.
Well, why do I want an exact duplicate?
Say it has a beautiful flower or a great fragrance, a nice shape, or maybe sentimental value.
Ah, so if I wanted to save Grandpa's cherry tree.
An exact duplicate.
Okay.
We do that through asexual or vegetative reproduction. And two forms of that are rooted cutting and grafted. Now, a rooted cutting is where you make a slice on the bottom, treat it with a hormone, and it grows roots. The other is called grafting, and that's where you take a plant that's already rooted and attach another plant to it.
I didn't know you could do that.
You can, and I recently went to a world-renowned arboretum and met with a plant propagation expert, and he showed us just how you do it.
Roger, there's any number of plants that we can root from cuttings, things like this begonia or coleus.
Well, I know that some simple things to root are forsythia and privet,
Right,
but we also have plants like rhododendron,
they're more difficult.
ilex glabra,
Right, the inkberry holly is
And
a
the-
little bit more difficult than that, and
and the
then
red and yellow dogwoods.
they're fairly easy.
So to get started, I'm assuming that this is the soil you're going to use to put them in.
We can use this. We'd use this for some plants, and it's a peat perlite mix, and we'd also can use a sand perlite mix.
So you're using a soilless mix that's really well draining.
That's right. It holds moisture and it drains. That's important. Here's a little terrarium that I put together from a salad green box that I got in the supermarket.
We're in the middle of this great greenhouse, and you're using the salad tray to grow your plants in.
Well, it seemed like a great way to reuse it, and it's something special. Or we can go to something a little bit, more elaborate, like this tray that I put together for a class I was teaching, where we have some woody plants, arborvitae and Chamaecyparis, cephalotaxis, a boxwood, a rhododendron. Look, this little rhododendron here already has roots.
Huh,
Look at
that's
that.
great. And you can get quite a few in there.
Yeah, look at how many we've got. I don't know, there must be 30 or 40 cuttings in
Now,
there.
how do you keep something like that moist?
Well, we missed it. You have to be real careful how much water you add because you don't want to make a swamp. We add water carefully with a fog mister here.
And then once you put the cover back on, you have a closed system, right?
Right, just a terrarium.
So that'll hold all the humidity in there.
Yeah, that's important. You don't need a whole greenhouse, just a mini greenhouse. I thought we'd start with taking a leaf cutting off of this begonia. We're going to be able to make 5 or 6 cuttings off one leaf. I'm going to harvest it right down in here so as to not leave a dead stem. Take that leaf, cut most of the stem off and throw it away so that we have no stem. Roger, we're going to cut this begonia leaf like a pie. We'll leave a vein in each cutting, and we can get half a dozen cuttings maybe out of this. So one cutting right here, and we'll tease that out. There. Another cutting using this vein. We'll trim the top. Another cutting with this vein. And here. We can even do one right here. Our next step is to use this root-inducing hormone. It helps the cuttings to root, speeds up the rooting process. We just put a little bit out here. We want to keep it clean, so we want to cover it up, keep it from being contaminated. Next, we're going to dip this into the root-inducing hormone, knock off any surplus. Dibble, again, we don't want to wipe that hormone off, and we keep doing this process, and in about a month, we'll have roots on those cuttings. It's that easy with some of these plants like begonia. You can do this with African violets, although you'd make the cutting slightly different.
Now you're just sticking those in peat moss and perlite.
Right. Just peat and perlite, and then we'll add some water, some moisture to keep them moist. We want the perlite there for porosity and the peat moss for holding moisture. We want to maintain the humidity, so we cover it up.
Seal it right over.
Seal it right up.
And how often do you water it?
Maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. Put your finger in, feel how moist it is. You want to keep high humidity.
Pretty simple solution.
Pretty simple. Leaf cuttings of begonia were easy. Now let's bring it up a notch and we'll do stem cuttings.
Well, let's try this forsythia. The
Great.
yellow of spring. You see it everywhere. People love it. Now, how do we get started?
Let's start by making an angled cut at the bottom.
Okay, so this is the base. So I'm going to
Right.
make a new cut, and it's going to be at a sharp angle like that. Okay?
And then a square cut just above the bud.
The bud's right there.
Yeah, square cut.
Square cut. There you go.
This is a little bit more difficult to propagate than the begonia, so we're going to use a stronger concentration of the hormone. Knock off any extra. We'll also dibble a hole and push this down in. We have the angle because it is easier to push in. It also helps us keep track of which end is up.
And that's important to have the up end.
The up end should always be up.
Yeah.
The end towards the roots should always be down.
Okay?
We're using a different medium here. We're using sand and perlite because of the added porosity. It drains better. From these up.
Now, one critical step to the success of the cuttings is a heat mat. You just plug it in, and it heats up to about 70 degrees and put the tray right on top of it.
That's it.
And that'll cause those roots to grow even better.
It's really critical, important to do that. Now we water this, and then we put the dome on top.
Perfect. Now, there are some plants that we can't get to root from cuttings.
That's right. Those we have to graft. Let me show you this apple. Grafting is where we put two different plants together, attaching one to the other. Here we have an older rootstock and our new plant, the scion. We've attached this to this.
So you can see where it's all grown and calloused together, and you can see how big this apple branch got.
Let me show you how we do it. Here's an apple seedling. We're going to use it as our rootstock. Going to cut it off right about here. Now I'm going to use a grafting knife. Note that this side is flat, this side is beveled, just like a plane. And I'm going to split the stem with that. Going right down through the center, or as close as I can get. Well, that's it for the rootstock. Now we're going to cut into our new plant, the scion. One side is cut. We'll cut the other side and make a wedge. Get that right. Wedge like that. Both sides cut. And we're going to trim the top off so that we've got about 3 or 4 buds. And we'll insert this wedge scion into our rootstock like so. So that the cambium layer, that's the layer of cells just under the bark, and that has to line up with the rootstock cambium and the scion cambium. And you look at this side and you see how it's lined up, and if I turn this, you look over here, you'll see how it's not lined up. So we can only match one side.
Aligning the cambium ensures the two parts will grow together.
That's right. Now we secure the graft union with a rubber band. I want to do it tight, but not so tight that it girdles it. Go down like a barber pole, and then I fasten that with my thumb like that. Now we seal our graft union with this paraffin wax. Comes on a roll. You could use regular wax that you got from the hardware store. And we just wrap it around to seal it all in and keep it nice and humid in there.
So that way it can't dry out.
Right. There it is, finished. Take that home, put it on a windowsill, and by spring, it'll be ready to plant outside.
Thanks so much, Jack, for sharing those simple techniques that will let us reproduce the plants that we love.
Roger, that was really interesting. I've never seen cloning before. It didn't really seem all that difficult.
Now, there's a couple of keys to it, though, Richard, to get your rooted cuttings. The first is a heated mat underneath to keep the soil nice and warm. The second is to use a rooting hormone. Now, it comes in a powder and a liquid. You can get it at a good garden center or even online.
You know what? I've got the warm pad here. If I put the hormones on, would that do anything, you think?
Yeah, you know, you might want to go with the powder and the liquid.
You think you'll grow?
I don't know. Well, we'd love to hear from you, so keep your letters and your emails coming. And until next time, I'm Kevin O'Connor.
I'm Richard Thuy.
I'm Roger Cook.
And I'm Tom Silver.
For Ask This Old House.
Can you get it in a gallon?
If you have a question about your house or a tip you'd like to share, please let us know. Visit our website, pbs.org, for expert advice and much more. Next time on Ask This Old House,
Kevin, I'm going to show you several ways to sharpen a lawnmower blade.
Roger teaches us how to keep your mower the sharpest tool in the shed. And the guys ask, what is it?
Boys are back from college, living home.
How's that going?
And late at night, so they're using these to sort of sneak in.
On all fours?
Sometimes.
That's next time.